But first, let's talk about this new Hyundai Ioniq 6 reveal. I actually saw an Ioniq 5 today on the way to the studio.
Yeah.
It had a student driver sticker on the back.
That's weird.
And that to me said, oh, wow, this is a person who will probably never drive a combustion engine car.
It's an interesting point. I don't know, like, student driver cars, they're usually the ones doing, like, the tests in before your permit. Are those owned by the people giving the test, or is it owned by the company doing it, or are you? If it has it's a sticker that was on it.
It was a sticker on the back. I think it can be a company that just teaches people to drive, teaches permit drivers how to pass the license test, or just teaches first time drivers.
It makes sense to do EV there just for gas because they're not making the student driver pay for the gas.
Yeah.
But at the other hand, if you're then going to an ICE engine afterwards, that's a little strange.
I guess it's not that different. You just instead of driving an automatic, it's just a smooth automatic because there's only one gear. You know, basically the same thing. You
With
just have
way
to
more
remember.
torque. And
Way more torque, a little faster. But
cool. I think this is really neat. And I think looking at it at first, it's pretty unique. I want to say the first thing here with the naming, I have nothing against the Ioniq 6, but the fact that it is a bigger number for a smaller car is really confusing. The whole time I was typing this outline, I was calling it the 5 and then assuming the 5 was the 6.
So it's kind of like what Polestar did too, right? They have the Polestar 2 and then the Polestar 3.
That goes
bigger.
Yes.
And then the Polestar 4 is like a car again, so it'll be smaller. So I don't know, maybe they could have separated into
naming.
different lines.
Why would anyone do logical naming? It doesn't make
I guess
sense.
this is just a TikTok sort of evolution, meaning like tick talk, you know what I mean? You know, not like TikTok, but like small jump to the 5.
So it looks
big
pretty
jump
cool.
to the 6. Yeah, it's a cool. No, I actually like it. Okay, I retweeted it saying the Ioniq 6 kind of looks like an Apple Magic Mouse, which is kind of funny, but there were some other interpretations that I liked of what it looks like. A lot of people seem to be seeing Porsche in this.
Yes.
Do you see Porsche in this?
I wanted to describe it as something which is going to make it sound mean, but it's not mean because I do like how this looks. I was calling it a Wish.com Porsche because it's like, it looks, it has that same styling, especially the back. The back is very similar with that like kind of spoiler on the back of it and then like the bar lighting. And then the front of it has this similar kind of curve up on the front where the headlights kind of curve up. Yeah. But it's like sunk down a little where if this was in a Porsche lot, you would be like, immediately you wouldn't think it looks out of place, but then you would see it and be like, something's just like a little different
you
there.
do a double
like,
take.
It's like a bootleg version the parking lot. But those are great cars. Like, so if you look kind of like that, that's good.
That's not bad. Yeah. That's actually funny to me when I see the side profile. So it's a very sleek car. It's the most aerodynamic car to go into production, tied for the Lucid Air with a drag coefficient of 0.21. Beats a lot of other cars. It's so sleek and low profile. To me, it actually looks just like, remember the Maybach?
You're talking about how it's like curved, almost like a
super long
dome.
profile. Yeah. It looks like a Maybach with a little spoiler on the end of it. But I like what Hyundai, or what they've been, am I saying Hyundai right?
Okay, wait. I looked this up because last time we mentioned this, people said we were saying it wrong. And
of course we are.
There are a lot of ways you can pronounce it. To be fair, Hyundai is like how it is just pronounced in the US from their own marketing. Like the commercials we've listened to our entire life.
This is hilarious. Keep going.
Hyundai.
Yeah.
Car Finder on the Hyundai Genesis.
Okay. Apparently, I looked it up. In Korean, it's like pretty hard to pronounce if you don't speak Korean. It is a
Makes
Korean
sense.
car.
Korean company.
I think it was like Hyundai. But
nobody says it.
Look
like
it up.
That.
If you're wondering, look it up. We're going to call it Hyundai.
Right.
Because that's how we grew up with it. And that's how they call it here.
Can I just use that exact same logic to defend Maybach?
I was going to say, you just said that. And I was like, that's another thing we've been told that we were wrong on.
It's definitely Maybach. But if you just finished listening to a Rick Ross song, you can say Maybach. Because I did.
I don't get that reference.
It's how he says it in his songs.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, the Ioniq 6, it's a unique looking EV. I guess my questions when I see this, it's like, okay, I really like what Hyundai's been doing. I see a Hyundai behind me on the highway and I'm like, whoever's doing their headlights, shout out to them.
Oh, they have some
I
cool,
like their lights.
They're having fun with it.
Yeah. They're unique and they're not afraid to try new stuff.
Yeah, the Santa Cruz has, and some of their other SUVs has like that crazy grille where the lights almost blend into it.
Like a V shape. Yeah.
Then didn't they do was it the Elantra where the headlights almost continued up the front trunk seam and like glowed up to that. They're having fun for sure.
Daytime running lights are going crazy.
Yeah.
So when I see a new Hyundai car, I already like the aesthetic. I'm curious about, well, it's an EV, so price, range, and charging speed.
Yeah.
Mainly those three things.
I think it's pretty safe to say the like base of this is probably going to be insanely similar, if not exactly the same as the Ioniq 5, right? It's not that the Ioniq 5 is a taller car and like an SUV, but overall it's pretty similar.
For reference, that's about 45 grand and has about a 300-mile range.
Starting at 44, 303-mile range. It's some of the best charging in terms of speeds. It's great. I think it's one of the best deals for an EV out there, pending car dealership markups.
Of course.
You know what? But like I think we have to look at it at MSRP because that's
the only way to
should
stay
be sold
sane.
at, and hopefully will be sold at.
Yeah.
And so I can imagine it. I think people think it's going to be cheaper because it's a sedan rather than like a crossover SUV like the Ioniq 5 is. I just don't think it'll be that much cheaper.
It'll be in the same class.
40 is where I'd put it, maybe as the lowest, which is still great. I still would like to see 30, but baby steps, getting closer.
Yep. The CNET Cars article we'll link in the description has like all the information that is confirmed that we can possibly talk about, but they're saying it'll go on sale in the US in 2023 next year. And the Ioniq 7 that follows the year after will be back to an SUV again.
There's a huge SUV, I think. I was going to say, because of the drag coefficient on this, and let's assume it's the same battery pack and like base as the Ioniq 5, do we think this will get more range? And if so, how much more range?
Okay. Given the same drivetrain, I would say it'll get slightly more range. Assuming they didn't,
let's say enough to drastically change the EPA rating on what they market it as.
It might have a different number. Yeah, it might get a different rating. Like when I consider aero, like when I change wheels, for example, and I have different like aero caps or take the aero caps off, like you can get a substantial difference in range. But I think things like shape of the car and the best drag coefficient versus like a decent drag coefficient might cost you like 5%. 5 to 8%, let's say. So over 300 miles, that's 15 to 25 miles.
Okay.
So not dramatic, but
I don't know anything about the drag coefficient number and what is good, but the Ioniq 5 is 0.288.
Which is pretty good. Anything under 0.4 is pretty good. Anything under 0.3 is really good.
Okay.
And then the best of the best are like the Lucid's 0.21. I think a Model S is 0.24.
Okay.
Same with Model 3. So 0.288, pretty low.
So the Ioniq 5 is already a really good coefficient.
Yep.
We're going to assume you're going to guess 15 miles
Something
extra,
like that.
which then that's EPA rating, which then probably it's probably pretty close.
Yeah.
Okay. I did want to say I thought this was really interesting. In one of the articles I saw, somebody brought up the Hyundai Prophecy, which was their concept car from 2020. Do you remember that?
Never heard of that name.
I posted a link in here. I want to look at it because it kind of clearly seems like this is where that concept car went to.
Yeah.
The Ioniq 6 is what the Prophecy turned into. And it's just like the most perfect example of what we talk about when we say, be careful with concept cars because it doesn't look like that at the end.
Yeah.
This concept car is nuts. And it was 2 years ago. It's clearly what the 6 is, but look at the interior has like two, not even handles.
Yeah.
They're like handles that push forward and backwards, and I'm guessing turn in and out. And that's how you drive it.
I know there's some confusion about whether Tesla's yoke was legal or not. There's no way this is legal. This isn't even a wheel.
This isn't even like fighter jet. This is like
completely new.
It's like it's like the gunner inside of like a bomber or something like that.
If I see this car with a student driver sticker on the back, I assume they will never learn how to drive a regular car.
I'll never go on the road ever again.
It's nuts.
But it's a cool looking car. This is like the insanely futuristic, but it has the same similar like spoiler in the back, kind of that squared off bottom after the spoiler, and then the rounded front with the headlights. It's more Model 3-ish, I think. Look at the taillights on this thing, though.
I love them. I love them.
Incredible.
You know what they remind me of? A real car.
Say it correctly.
A real car.
Okay.
The Bugatti Divo.
Oh, never mind. That's not what I was thinking.
Okay, if you look up the Bugatti Divo's taillights, and this is a real car that actually exists, it has basically this type of headlight, which is wild.
So and now I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correct. I'm going to say Maybach. The taillights in that actually were, while they were inside the taillights, it had individual. So what this Hyundai has is, it's kind of like almost like crystals coming out, and then those crystals have LEDs inside them and light up the crystals, which then turns into a light. Okay, that's really sick.
That is a sick. I mean, it's a $5 million car, so like no one's ever going to see one.
Yeah.
But.
The Maybach though had inside the taillights had those individual crystal-esque stalagmites, stalactites that lit up, and I thought it looked really neat. This is obviously the old concept that didn't actually happen, but it still looks really cool. And the spoiler has this weird like LED waveform-esque looking thing on it, and Hyundai's like carved into the back with lights. But
I guess my thought when I see all these concept cars is like each manufacturer, when they make a concept car, has an intention to get a different amount close to that car. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So when Tesla rolls out a concept car, a lot of times their intention is to get as close to that as possible. The concept car Model S and the first one they ever shipped, and the ones that shipped like to the masses right after that were very similar. The Porsche Mission E, when we saw that concept car, it was pretty close to what we have as the Taycan now. Sure. And then we see like the CES concept cars, the Sony concept car, all these crazy ones.
Yeah.
And we know that there is no intention to match that on the road, but it will take some ideas and some shapes from that concept car into reality.
This reminds me of kind of like, remember Mercedes did that one with like the giant LED Tron wheels and stuff like that? Yeah. This is closer to that. The Mission E was like skirting that line.
They got the wheels.
Like,
They got the wheels. I like that. Yeah.
But I would highly suggest, if you're listening to this on audio and not on video, where we have the pictures to compare them, like whenever we talk about concept cars, like don't expect it to look like that, look up the Hyundai Prophecy and now look up the Ioniq 6, and you can see the similarities, but you can also see the grave differences of like we're expecting the Jetsons future, and like we are solidified in
no
real
door
life.
handles, no mirrors, no steering wheel. The seats spin around and face backwards. All
I think
that
this says plaid LED seats.
Yeah. It's a good
Amazing.
time.
They should bring that in though. I would do that.
Thanks for watching this clip. This clip was brought to you by Europa, one of the moons of Jupiter. It's one of the only moons with liquid water. But fun fact, all of that liquid water is underneath the surface of the moon, which is solid. It sometimes has volcanoes of water that plume out into space like 100 miles. A really interesting moon. One of the only moons we suspect in our solar system that might have life, but it's just another moon. It's just the size of our moon, just hanging out.
I hope they paid well for that ad.
Yeah.
That was boring.
Europa's fascinating. There's so many. I'm on the Wikipedia page right now for it. If you finish watching this clip, I suggest you go check it out. So what you're going to do is you're going to go down, leave a comment, and then you're going to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and then Command T, and then just Google Europa Wikipedia and just scroll for a while. Just check it out. All right, that's it. See you guys later.
I did not approve of this message.